Hello there guys, welcome to my first, if you can call it a tutorial, somewhat of a tutorial on the PMDG's 737-800 NGX. Main reason for doing this, I stream a lot on Twitch and it's come to my attention that quite a few people want to learn how to fly the NGX, but new to FSX, especially with the release of the Steam edition, but don't really know how to start on an aircraft pretty much as complex as the NGX. The NGX, it takes a bit of getting used to, but hopefully I'm going to try and go through the NGX in as much detail as I can do it, and sort of show you how to fly it. Pretty much this video is going to be the cockpit preparations. I'm not using GSX, unfortunately. This is prepared, and it has a bit of a tendency to sometimes stop working, and obviously the time I go to start recording a video, it stops working. So pretty much what I'm going to do, as I said, cockpit preparations. We're not going to put a route in, we'll do the departure. We're going to just do I think it's a Seaford, either the 5 Mike or 5 Victor, I can't remember, I don't look at the Gatwick SOPs often. It's either a 5 Mike or a 5 Victor, Seaford departure, runway 26 left, and yeah, so we're going to pretty much just fly the departure, and then I'll end this video and probably do an arrival over Seaford, which if I'm not mistaken is a Willow arrival. I can't remember, but I'll have to look that up for the next video, if there shall be one. And pretty much this is the Norwegian 737-800. I like the Norwegian colour scheme, and I believe we're in Lima November Oscar Mike, I think, I can't remember. And as I said, we're at London's Gatwick Airport as I fly through the buildings with EasyDock. So, yep, this is UK 2000's London Gatwick. Not really the point of the video, but I just thought I'd show you where we are. We're currently on stand 18, which is part of the South Terminal. There's the North Terminal over there. So, yeah, all we've got is a simple GPU connector at the moment. Aircraft is completely in cold and dark state, as you would find the aircraft in the morning of your flying day. So pretty much, let's jump into the cockpit. So this is the cockpit for the 737-800 NG, obviously the newer version with the glass cockpit displays. And as you can see, it's completely cold and dark. PMDG always has already has the left CDU running, so you can go in and put your fuel in, open the doors, and do whatever you want to do. But for the sake of this, we'll imagine that's not on. We're going to get established power to the aircraft. And as you can see, there's obviously no power established right now. So first of all, I'm going to switch to battery power and then connect the GPU. So we're now running off of ground power. We'll select the nav lights to steady. So we've got red and green on the wings for the nav lights to show that there's somebody in the flight deck setting the aircraft up. We'll go ahead and switch the cabin utilities electrical power on for making cups of tea and coffee, and the IFE passenger seating, which is the in-flight entertainment system. I'm not entirely sure if Norwegian has in-flight entertainment in terms of personal in-flight entertainment. Never flown with them, but yeah, that's for the in-flight entertainment. We're on ground power and we're on auxiliary. We'll go put the window heat on, and if we look up here, we've got our IRSs. So if we switch these both to nav, they'll go from on DC to align, and same with the right IRS. Now that they're aligning, we can align the yaw damper and just do a quick flow. Everything appears to be fine. Arm the emergency lights. Seatbelts can stay off because at this point in time we would still be refueling. Everything is good. Resoak fans are currently on. Packs are on auto, and the isolation valve is also on auto. Bleeds are off. Pressurization doesn't matter at the moment. And yeah, let's jump into the first officer seat. Now, problem with the NGX I've always found, it's not necessarily a problem, it's just a bit of a bug. You always have to change from inches to barometric pressure. And in P3D especially, you have to turn your instrument lights down. They always sort of spawn into the aircraft and they're ridiculously bright. Anyway, dual FMC operations restored. So from now we can start programming in our routes. And as I said at the start, we're not really going to fly the route. We're just going to insert the departure. The departure. Tangle my words there. But I would show you where you can set your route up and how you do that, and I'll probably do that in a different video for route planning if anybody is interested. So pretty much, first week going and loading your fuel. For this video, I'm going to say we're going to be taking 14,000 kilograms of fuel, which as you can see is quite a lot of fuel. We can actually take that down. We're just going to say we're going to use 9,500. I don't know how far that would take you with the weather at the moment. 9,500. So we have got fuel in the center tank, and you use the fuel in your center tank first, and then you move on to the wing tanks. Payload, we've got a full passenger load and a fair bit of cargo, to be honest. Doors, we can open a door, just the front door where the gate is. We're not going to go through loading bags, etc, etc. Right, so on the identification page we've got our checkout AIRAC, which is currently up to date as of this video, which is 1503, which is currently the 27th of March 2015. So, position initialization, we are at Echo Golf Kilo Kilo, and I'm not entirely sure if it will find to stand 18, and it does. Well, go next page, get either GPS position. I'm going to go for the left because I always use left, and insert it into our IRS position, which helps the IRS align us. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to use a company route. Company route you can create using something like PFPX or a website like simbrief.com, and it pretty much saves you the hassle of going through and adding in your departure runways, arrival runway and things like that. Or the arrival runway can change, but it saves you going through and inserting if you have a long route, especially if you flew somewhere like Hong Kong to Heathrow, not in the NGX but in the 777. You can use a company route to insert the entire flight plan in one go. Most airlines that I know, pilots I've spoken to, do use company routes, but for the sake of this video we are not. So under origin, Echo Golf Kilo Kilo, type it into the scratch pad, but in the NGX it automatically takes it from its reference, go into origin, and destination we'll just put Echo Golf Kilo Kilo as well, which is London Gatwick. Runway is 26 left, and flight number, we'll just say we're going to be North Shuttle 123, just for the sake of it. North Shuttle is NAX. Okay, so go onto the departure arrival page, click departures under Gatwick, 26 left, and then scroll down until you find the departure. If you're flying on a network like VATSIM, you'll be given your departure. And it has updated the departures. I didn't have, yeah, it has. And until the other day, I didn't have some of these departures. So Navigraph has done its job and updated, which is nice. So chosen our departure, which was the Seaford 5 Mike departure, and click activate and execute. Position in the perf initialization, zero fuel weight. You can, if you use something like PFPX, you can work out zero fuel weight, or you can double click and it'll insert zero fuel weight. Reserves, we'll say we're just going to have 2 in reserves, and cost index, I'm not entirely sure what they use at Norwegian. I'm going to go with 12 because I'm pretty sure that's what EasyJet use. And I don't know, cruising let's say 8,000. I'm not sure what the actual restrictions in the SID are. I can actually find out. 4,000. Yeah, just 4,000 is a restriction. So we'll say we'll cruise at 8. It's probably going to keep coming up, giving me unable cruise altitude. Transition altitude today at Gatwick is flight level 60, which is 6,000 feet. You'll get that from the ATIS if it changes to 7,000, etc, etc. Now, takeoff derates. You don't have to derate. Most airlines do derate. It saves. They don't have to use the full power of the engines. Obviously, on flight simulation, you don't need to worry about expenses and things like that of engines. But for the sake of trying to be realistic, I do derate my engines. Obviously, you can bump the thrust up as well if you wanted even more power. I think it's 27,000 pounds of thrust. I can't remember if it is or not. But for the sake of the video, we'll just take off derate 1 and we'll use standard climb thrust. You can set a takeoff a derated temperature, but you can use something like PFPX and TopCat in conjunction to work that out. For the sake of the video, you don't need, as I said, you don't need to derate at all. But I do derate my takeoffs just because. Alright, takeoff reference page. We're going to be using flaps 5. That is the normal flap setting for takeoff in the 737-800. Double click center of gravity, and it will give you your trim. This bit, as I was saying, you can set this up fairly simply by just clicking all of these. I like to, when I stream especially, people who watch my streams will know, I go in and set the runway winds and runway slope. Doesn't necessarily make a difference, but for the sake of doing it, for the 10 seconds it takes, I might as well do it. Right, winds were 200. They've now gone to variable of 3 knots, but they were 200 at 3 as of about 5 minutes ago, so I'm just going to put 200 at 3. Runway slope is 0. Runway heading, just confirm that, is 259, which is what we got on the charts as well for 26 left. It makes sense, that's good. As I said, you can work out your V speeds, V1, VR, and V2 with a program like TopCat and PFPX. The NGX does a pretty decent job at working them out for you, but they're not always accurate in terms of what the winds might be. So use these by all means, they work. I'm not going to say they don't work, they work perfectly. But PFPX can give you a more professional, it can work them out better. Trim of 5.2, so we need to remember that. We can set the trim when we've got some hydraulic pressure. And 151 is that V1 is the point of no return. After V1 we're going to continue into the air no matter what happens. If we have an engine failure at V1, we'll continue, we'll take it up into the air and we'll climb out on our safe climb out speed, which is V2. VR is our rotation speed, which is 145 knots. And our V2, as I said, is our safe single engine climb out speed, which is 151 knots. So I'm going to go up here onto the MCP. Probably easier if I switch back to my normal seat. 151, I'm going to set 151 in there, and while we're here, we can set our runway heading of 259, and I'll also set the courses as 259 because we're not going to need those as of yet. And initial altitude we'll set as 6 because that's a transition, but as I said, not necessarily needed yet. Right iris as aligned, still waiting on the left iris to align. As I said, there's a one-man crew. This one, I'm not using FS2 crew. This can take a little bit longer than it would in real life because obviously he'd have a captain going around and doing his things, but that's not necessarily the case. Speed restrictions. Speed restriction is 250 knots below 10,000 feet. I say this every time on my stream. If you fly for a virtual airline, they don't want you to break the speed restrictions, but the NGX and every aircraft, to be honest, will break that speed restriction. You'll get to 250, and all it takes is a gust, and you'll be doing 260. And then if you're flying with a virtual airline that's fairly strict, you'll then lose points for the virtual airline. I always set 240 because even if I do get a gust and overspeed the restriction that I've set in, there we go, the enable cruise altitude, I'll still be below the actual restriction, which is 250. Not necessarily important in Flight Simulator, but in real world you're not meant to bust 250 knots below 10,000 for noise abatement, along some other reasons, but noise abatement as well. Right, I'm just going to show you the descent page. A lot of people don't seem to realise this. If you go on the descent page and click on forecast, transition altitude is automatically set as flight level 180. The NGX being American, PMDG I think being American, your transition in the States, if you're American, is using flight level 180. Here in the UK it varies. Here in Europe, to be honest, it varies. Here in southeast England it's 6,000 feet. Somewhere like Manchester I believe is 5,000 feet. And Amsterdam I think is either 3 or 4. I can't exactly remember, but I always set the transition of our arrival airfield before I go, because I don't want to miss. I don't want to forget that. This is our winds. You can set your winds, your forecast winds at the arrival airport, along with the QNH and the ISA. So pretty much that is to be filled. I filled it out probably about 30 miles before top of descent. It only takes 5 minutes. So I always use 3,000, 6,000, 9,000 feet, and put the winds in respectively. Active Sky Next gives you those winds at those altitudes as well, which is good. So if we go and click on route, if we click next page, there is our route. Seaford 5 Mike to Seaford. Pretty much I haven't got a route planned, but the way that you would go about filling this out is an airway. I don't know an airway that goes from Seaford, but say any airway Upper Lima 602, which is actually an airway. Don't think it goes from Seaford. Click it into the second LSK, and then the point, the waypoint, the fix, the VOR, you're going to be exiting the airway. Click that there. So if you're going, for example, was it Upper November 57, which I believe goes to Trent, which is Tango November Tango. Upper November 57 goes here for the airways, and then you'd put Trent, Tango November Tango on this side. So if you look at it this way, you go that one to that one, and from Seaford you join this airway. From this airway you're going to leave the airway here, and then you're going to join another airway and leave that one there. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't make sense, I can try and make another video on PFPX and getting routes and actually route planning. So back to our takeoff page. Alright, that is pretty much the FMC done with for now. Now we've got power established to the aircraft. Go ahead and put the engine electrics on, even though the engines aren't running. Run the airspeed warnings. Stall horn, oh, stall warning, sorry. And we'll just check the flaps. Good. If you're using something like FS2 crew, you have to have the service interphone on to talk to the ground crew, and you would in real life, so I always put the service interphone on. Alright, continuing our tests and checks, because there's quite a few. Down here, do the fire test. Port, and the fire bells go off. Good. Checking the free agents for the engines and the APU, they're all green, and checking the cargo test. Good. I'm just going to put the gain for the weather all the way up. Weather and turbulence, WX and plus, or WX plus T is what I use for weather and turbulence. Now I can never remember how you test the weather, but I believe it's that one. Or is it this? Alright, let's have a look. So the weather radar is a test. New for, there we go, the NGX. Well, it is as of making this video. I don't know if it'll still be new by the time that some of you guys see it, but we'll do TCAS test. It will hopefully say TCAS test pass. So as you can see, it populates the ND with, here we go, pass test. It populates the ND with simulated traffic and resolutions to those conflicts. Squawk 2200, and we'll VHF, flight crew, and speaker. So obviously Unicom, if we were on VATSIM 122.8, and DM4D frequency, which is a distress frequency that all airliners have to monitor, even if it's on the standby comms 121.5. If an aircraft can't get through on the live frequency, then they will use 121.5, which is a solely dedicated frequency for emergencies that any aircraft can contact, and obviously aircraft in the air have to monitor that in case nobody hears the aircraft in distress. So it's a sort of a fail-safe system for people in distress. QNH was 1020. So we can go up here and we can see on our PFD, we've got our airspeed here. Obviously artificial horizon showing brown for land and blue for sky makes pretty much sense. 10 degrees up, 10 degrees down. The pitch is not representative of how the aircraft looks in real life. The roll, however, is. That's 30 degrees, and obviously you can work out 10 and 20 degrees in intervals. Radio altitude shows -4 feet. I can't remember the exact reason it's -4, but I remember it's something to do with during the flare, the radio altimeter is above the main gear. It's kind of confusing to explain without diagrams, and if anybody wants me to explain that, then I'll try and cover it in another video. This is our altitude reel. It pretty much shows our altitude, and if I set the QNH as 1020, which I just have, we are at 0 feet. What's the airfield elevation here at Gatwick? It's about 200 feet. 203 feet. So we are just above 200, but not at 220. This is our VSI, vertical speed indicator. That's 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 6,000 feet. And that is our rate of climb, and obviously downwards is our rate of descent. I don't really want to exceed anything above 2,000 feet, to be honest. It's a bit uncomfortable for the passengers in the back. Anyway, where is that? I've just got so many papers in front of me to read from, I don't really know where I am. So we've got the squawk set, everything else is set. So pretty much what we are now is we are near enough ready to go. We have got a VOR at Gatwick, which is 110.9. So I'll set that on this side, which is if in case we have to return to London Gatwick, we've got, you know, minimal instruments. Is the weather cav okay? I think the weather's cav okay. I don't know. It's just below being cav okay. If it was cav okay, we could return on visuals, but unfortunately it's not. So you would have to return with instruments, and we've got another VOR Seaford, 117.0. So if I set that on the left hand side, probably in DC, you can actually see what I'm talking about. And if I click the VOR up, it should say if we can pick up Seaford. Same as it does here, distance and SFD. We're too far. Well, no matter, when we get in the air, we'll be able to pick that up, which is 117.0. Let me just triple check that. Yes, 117.0. So we'll get that one here. Alright, everything is aligned, so we can stick our flight directors on, and depending on your airline as well, have LNAV and VNAV, or VNAV and LNAV is the way I click that, armed on the ground, and the auto throttle can also be armed now. Alright, so we're going to pretty much, I think the video is already sorry about that, I think the video is already about 23 minutes long, so I may end this video just before pushback and then pick it up again during the pushback, and we'll do the departure as a separate video, because that's another 10-15 minutes worth of content. Auto brake, set to RTO meaning rejected takeoff, and something I didn't do was check the lights, but being in a flight simulator there's never a problem with the lights, but that is to check all the lights. All the lights looking good, so that's good. Set it off. Also, if you're flying at night and you don't really want all your MCP lights very bright, you can turn this down and it goes to dim. So like the wheel locking lights, they just turn down a little bit so they're not as in your face. Obviously recall, we've got anti-ice, hydraulics, doors and overhead, which pretty much makes sense because we've got no hydraulics, doors are open, and the overhead is because it is completely not configured. As I said, we're going to be cruising at 80, so I'll just go ahead and set 80. Landing altitude at the airport is going to be 200 feet, and we're on automatic pressurization, so that is all fine. Right, so now we're pretty much ready. We can get the seatbelt sign on. Fueling would be finished by now. Fuel pumps, good. Everything else is good. Alright, we're going to start the APU. To do that, click to start, and then click the APU bleed to on. And we can watch the APU pressure start to rise as well. By pressure I mean the exhaust gas temperature, the EGT. And when the APU does become available, we'll get blue lights for the transfer the electrical power to the aircraft from the ground power unit to the APU, and we'll be running off APU power then. If we could flick the fuel pump on, so the APU does get some fuel from the aircraft. Otherwise the APU won't be able to burn the fuel. There we go, we've got the APU up and running. As you can see, we've got APU on bus, and if we click both of those down, we can now disconnect the GPU. Before you do that, head up here, your AC power, turn that to APU generator, so you've got electricity from the APU. Don't want to disconnect the ground power without actually having anything to switch on to. So if I go to FS Actions, go to Doors, we can go ahead and close that first door, and ground connections, just set the parking brake as well. Air conditioning, we'll just disconnect the GPU, there we go. So they're now able to disconnect the GPU. So we've got just the wheel chocks are still in. So once we're ready, we can go. Put traffic on the ND. I always put traffic. It gives you the range rings, and it gives you a bit more situational awareness as well. If I click center, we can actually look at the ND. We can actually look at our departure. So obviously the way we're facing is just slightly to the west of Northerly. So it's going to be a left turn out to Seaford, and if you've got the charts you can actually see that is the departure. So just triple check yourself before you... And there's a plan view, if that makes sense. Is it plan view? I can't remember what it is. Looks sideways onto your plan, shows you your altitude restrictions. So that is pretty much that sorted, so we can go ahead and get rid of the gate. GSX is still not going to work, is it? It may work, I don't know. Give it a minute. So that's pretty much the NGX, ready to go as far as getting off the ground. We have a departure in there. Could have put a route in there. I don't have a route, so I haven't put a route in. I may just continue this flight and do the arrival via Seaford to show you guys how to do the arrival. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out. Okay, so now we are pretty much ready for pushback. So, anti-collision light can come on, which shows the ground personnel around the aircraft. Don't approach the aircraft when the anti-collision light is on. If I show you from the outside view, there's a light on the top and a light on the bottom. If I can actually get below, can I get below it? There you go, between the gear. And it shows ground personnel not to approach the aircraft because it is about to become pressurized, hydraulics, and the engines could possibly, the pilots could possibly start the engines. And obviously you don't really want people wandering around in front of these CFM engines, quite powerful engines. So you don't really want people walking around in front of them. So with that being said, anti-collision light is on. We can now put the fuel pumps on, which is just done. Probe heat can come on now. Not necessarily essential to have them on now. You can have them on as you line up. You want the probe heat on during flights, especially. You don't want ice to accumulate on the pitot heats, on the pitos. Now, packs can come. You need packs off for departure, well, for the startup. Sorry, and isolation valve to open. APU bleeds are all on, and I always turn the recirculation fans off. It's on auto, but I turn them off. If there was a fire in the engines, you don't really want the air to be circulated around the cabin. Engine 1 and engine 2 electrics off. So that is pretty much us ready for pushback. We've got the centre fuel pumps on because we have got, as I said, we've got fuel in the centre tank. We've got 1,670 kilograms of fuel. So obviously we want the pumps on. And now we're pretty much ready. We can release, check the parking brake, release the chocks. So that is pretty much us ready to push back. If you were on a VAT sim, you would have already had your clearance. through delivery or whatever station is online. And this is the point you would request push and start, or start and push, in that order. So pretty much, I think I'll leave this video here and I'll pick it up sometime soon, and I'll continue filming the video, but I'll release this video hopefully now and see your guys' reaction to it, and then hopefully release the second part if you guys take to it well, which I hope you do. So once again, guys, this is only my first tutorial, so I hope it goes well. Hope you guys like it, and I hope I didn't mess up too much. As I said, I'm not a 737 NG pilot by any means, or anywhere near qualified, but I do fly this aircraft quite a lot, and I just think it's quite interesting to see how other people pick up on it as well, because I know quite a few people are looking for tutorials on how to start the NGX, and now I've got somewhere to direct them. So trim air is on, just noticing things, I'm just pointing out things. So yeah, this is how I start the NGX. May not be 100% accurate by the book, but it works for me, and people seem to enjoy my streams. So, you know, win-win once again, guys. Thanks very much, and I'll see you guys over in part 2. So thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.